Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 430. Meeple Nation, July 2022 news.
Welcome, citizens of Meeple Nation. For the next 30 minutes, sit back and enjoy.
Meeple Nation is sponsored by GameToppersLLC.com. Go to their website, check out what they've got. They've got all sorts of wonderful surprises that you can surprise yourself with in your game room. Game toppers, various sizes that will fit almost any gaming surface. They have beautiful mats to cover those toppers with. They have accessories, drink holders to go with our toppers, Nathan. Use those pretty much every time that we're sitting at the table.
I'm using mine now.
I am too, yeah, as we sit here recording.
So do they actually have an option that's like, surprise me, like send me whatever you want and bill me however you want?
Wouldn't that be nice?
I'm not sure if nice would be the word.
It'd be nice until the credit card
the surprise would be great. The surprise of the stuff would be great because they are truly amazing. But I wouldn't want to see the bill.
With their latest 3.5 Kickstarter, they added the leg kits for the Watson. I was really close to pulling the trigger on this. I had a refrigerator that went out on me, and then a washer that went out on me. So my money got pulled in different directions. But there was a moment where I was thinking to myself, I could dig a cold storage unit out in the backyard. I'd just go get a little washboard. Who needs refrigerators and washers? Just buy a Watson.
You know, that's a good point. People have survived years without refrigerators and washers, so you might as well treat yourself to a Watson with legs.
No, I feel your pain, Doug. I have to buy a new water heater. I keep thinking that I'm going to put some Mycrofts up here. This new space that we're in works really good having the two Watsons, put them end to end, and where we used to be was a small room that was cramped up. We can have two 8-foot Watsons end to end, utilize this long room instead of a small square room. Yeah, surprising yourself with a Watson, but don't leave it up to somebody else to give you 10 more yardies.
Don't leave it up to chance. Decide what you want, put it in your cart, pay for it, and then forget that you bought it, and then you'll be surprised when it shows up at your front door.
What? Oh my goodness!
So check them out, GameToppersLLC.com.
We are the hosts of Meeple Nation. I'm Nathan Howard.
I'm Dave Holliday.
I'm Douglas Stewart.
And I am Andy Holliday.
We are so excited to have Doug with us today. We can't find our Logan anymore. Seems like that guy works every night. He started working some weekends too, so we don't even see him at Andy's game night. Not that I'm awake for that anyways. Seems like forever since we've seen Logan. But we do miss him. We hope he'll be back at some point. But until then, we'll always squeeze in a little Doug.
I'm happy to be here.
You're happy to be Squoze?
I'm happy to be Squoze.
Okay.
Go to our website, meeplenation.com. We have blogs, up to like 50, 60 blogs. A lot of insight, some from Doug, some from us, Nathan Tinney, Kit Howard as well, and even that guy Logan, if we all remember him. Links to photos of our Instagram, links to all of our past episodes, bios, questions, comments. Feel free to email us at meeplenation@gmail.com. And also while you're on that webpage, you will see a link to our Patreon page. If you like what we do, want to help us continue to do this, we would love support. We appreciate those that have supported us thus far. Doug, you included in those. So thank you for that. And we thank all of our patrons that help us and keep us going. It's a big support and it's a big help for us. And we appreciate it tons.
Very, very, very much.
Yeah, happy to do so. I think that's why you guys invited me on the podcast, right? Was this a Patreon
Patreon pledge level?
Yeah. You pledge enough, they'll have you on the show. It's great.
That would be way cool if we could do that.
Yeah. If you're local, sure, we can do that. Check us out, meeplenation.com.
This week, we are talking about July news. And as always, we start off the news by talking about some of our gaming highlights from June. Doug, why don't you start us off?
One of my highlights for June and for quite a while before that has been our Pathfinder campaign. That has been such an incredible amount of fun.
Yeah.
I think what I'm loving the most about it is that it's a little bit more of a laid-back campaign. It's kind of this cast of just ridiculous characters. The campaign setting isn't super serious.
Hey, ridiculous characters.
Come on.
What?
It's awesome. We've got an automation construct, two-headed. I don't know. What is your character, Dave? What is that?
Descended from Ettins. I don't know how to pronounce the race that it is, but it's descended from Ettins with two heads.
And I'm playing a lizard folk character, and then we've got a bunch of goblins in the group. It's just been nonstop hilarity. It's really just a lot of fun at the table. That continues every time we get together for Pathfinder. That has been a consistent highlight for me. Another thing that I've really enjoyed this last month, I've been able to get Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition to the table a couple more times. I really like that game. Sort of this distilled down version of Terraforming Mars. I think it takes a lot of the stuff that I love about Terraforming Mars and puts it into an easier to get to the table package. It removes some of the length and analysis paralysis and some of those things. We've really been having a good time getting that one to the table. That one's one that keeps hitting on all cylinders. My game group that I play with outside of Meeple Nation, we've been having a really good time with Zombicide 2nd Edition as well. It's a pretty cheesy zombie apocalypse survival game. Zombicide 2nd Edition is all about having this ridiculous band of characters. The game just throws endless waves of zombies at you. Is this one you guys have played?
I've never played it. Zombie Dice is one that I've played kind of along the same... Well, it's not along the same lines at all. It's a completely different game, but it's my quick zombie fix game. And also Escape Zombie City is another one that I quite like. But Zombicide is one that I've wanted to try. Enjoying that gaming with you more, Doug and Doug? I'm not sure why I said Doug and Doug.
Is your prescription okay?
I'm really glad I get to hang out with you, Nathan and Nathan.
Glad that we've got to play some more games.
I'll bring that one over sometime.
That'd be great.
Yeah, it's really good. So the 2nd edition, what they did was they took all of the various editions that they had before and they condensed and refined the rules. It's really streamlined, super quick, fast to set up. Throws tons of zombies at you and you just find weapons and kind of mow them down. We've had a lot of really fun laughter and fun moments at the table getting Zombicide out.
That's what makes a game great in my book. If I'm laughing and having a good time, it's a great game night.
I totally agree. And Zombicide is just raucous fun. That's what it does. It's really, really good. Another highlight for me, being able to be here. I've tried to clear up my schedule a little bit more. So for Thursday night game nights, I've been here a little bit more and it's been really enjoyable. The new Meeple Nation headquarters is awesome. It's really fun to be here. The other night we got out Detective Club. I think that went pretty well. I taught that one and I think that was fairly fun.
I had fun with it. Andy grumbled the whole time and then kicked all of our butts.
Yeah,
I didn't
as per the
grumble.
usual.
I only grumbled at the beginning. I didn't grumble the whole time.
You taught us Medici, which is just a ridiculous game.
That is a great game.
I love Medici. It's a classic game. It has fond memories for sure. I have the original version, and there's definitely some complaints about the board, the colors blending together. It's hard to discern what the resources are. The game itself, I thoroughly enjoy. It's one of my favorite 6-player games. It has no issues with the higher player count. Great to be able to get 6 people to the table. For the longest time, that was our go-to non-party large player count game.
It was a lot of fun to learn. I did really like it. I'm not very good at bidding games in general, so I was horrible at it. I think Nidavellir is about the only bidding game that I am any good at these days. I don't know what it is about bidding. Can't seem to get it to click in my brain. It just doesn't work for me. Nidavellir is really good.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Nidavellir in the games. We've been playing it online. That's one that I almost bought. Doug owns it. Chances are I'm going to be playing it more online on BGA than in person anyway. So I've actually won like the last two times playing.
Yeah, no, you've been doing great at that.
Surprised me. So I'm like, because the first few times I was dead last every time. The last 2 times I won, and the last time I won quite significantly.
Yeah, you did.
Nidavellir is a great game.
One final highlight for me, the other night at game night at Andy's house, Dennis was there, and he taught us how to play My Father's Work. I thought that was a great game. We were about a little more than halfway through it, and then Nathan accidentally closed the app.
And I was having a hard time that night. Might have seemed intentional, but it was completely unintentional. I mean, I was way tired. I had a fat thumb and pushed the wrong character, and when I was inspecting something on my phone, I just swipe back, and it goes back a screen. And I did that on Dennis's phone. Dennis, where did it go?
Dennis looked at his phone. He's like, well, we're done.
Guess we're done.
Game over.
Which in my heart, I was kind of grateful for because I was having a hard time making it all the way to the end. We were just playing so late.
Yeah, it was late.
Long teach and everything.
Yeah.
But the game was great. I really like My Father's Work. And I guess it would be worth mentioning that app, one of the reasons why we weren't able to go back in and finish is because it is still in its like alpha form. They haven't finished it yet.
It's not even in beta form. It's very rough and has a lot of typos in it still. Worked really well. The more and more games that are app driven that are done well, I'm starting to really enjoy.
Yeah.
Me too.
A long time ago on the cast, we were talking about app-driven game where maybe you use the screen of tablet for different things. And it was really at its infancy. None of us were super excited about it. And at this point, I think we've all turned around 180 degrees.
I'm the same way with solo games. For the longest time, I didn't want to play solo games. I play games for social interaction. Why would I play these games solo? And I found myself playing a lot of games solo. It works great to learn a game, but then if I also find a game that, I really like this game, it's just not going to make it to the game night table. And I get more and more excited. More and more games are having solo options available.
The Automa and solo AIs are getting way, way better. They're slick. It doesn't take much to get them out. Take your turn, throw a card over, do what it says, and then you're right back to taking your turn again. It flows really smooth. Yeah, they've come a long ways with those.
I have several highlights. Some of them are a little overlapped, fairly normal for us here. Playing in the new game room. More than a full month now of playing in the new game room, and I love it. There's room.
It doesn't feel nearly as claustrophobic.
It's different. It's a different feeling, yeah. One of the things I like about it is it's not a 20-minute drive. It does have a downside. That 20 minutes was my chance at sharing ice cream with Andy Poops. Now I have all these ice creams in my fridge. I buy them for the purpose of when Andy, we'll have that together on our drive. Anyway, it's cute.
It sounds cute. Totally picturing Lady and the Tramp, but that's all right.
I think I'm on my third play of Feast for Odin at this point. Really like that game. Like I've said before, I don't know if I'll ever be any good at it, but I really enjoy it. This is really the most consistent we've played online board games, probably ever. It's been nice. Actually, it has been a little slow. Corey's in Japan with his family, so that's slowing things down understandably, right?
The nerve of him wanting to spend time with his family.
With the move, you've been distracted. I've had a ton of stuff going on, so it's just been a little slower, but we're still doing it, and I love it. I got to play this a week or two ago. Nola came up with her fiancé. Let me start over. I got to meet her boyfriend at the end of the meeting. We were updated and told that it was her fiancé, and I got to play games with him. It was pretty cool. I don't know why I was worried about this next game. I've seen it, and I was always excited to play it, but for some reason, I had this feeling like I wasn't going to love it. It was Merchants of the Dark Road, and I got to play that the other day. Very enjoyable. I'm excited to play that one again. We got to play Seafall again, finally. That was awesome.
Super awesome. And for those of you who are listening, Andy is giving hand signals to Dave. Seafall is not Andy's favorite game.
The last play that we did, Nathan, it was the first to get to 18 in this game. Nathan won with 25 points, and then Andy with 9, and then me with 3. So it was really lopsided. Like a lot of the plays of that game have been. I like it more and more all the time.
The universe had to correct itself somehow, Dave.
Seafall is great. I know a lot of people hate on Seafall. For me, is probably my number 2 legacy. Very much enjoyed my experience with it, and we are far enough in between my last play and this play that there's nothing I really remember. I mean, there's things that I know are going to happen. The specifics of those happening and how they're unraveling, I don't have that information, and I don't remember at the time that we played. I know there's stuff coming up, but I'm still just super excited about experiencing this game. Even though Andy's disgruntled, and I ran away with that last time.
The one before that.
And
the one before that.
And my time of running away with games is quickly coming. As much as Andy doesn't think so, that cycle is really going to be turning up to Andy's upswing. Then we'll see how much the rest of us like or dislike the game.
This isn't one that I've played, but it's interesting to hear you guys talk about it, and I've heard other people talk about it, and it seems like this game is pretty polarizing. The opinions of it are pretty polarized.
This is actually the 3rd time I've gone through it. If we finish, this will be the 2nd time I finish.
We're going to finish.
Thank you, Andy. I appreciate that. But the first time we finished, there was somebody that was just as disgruntled as Andy currently is. That was Matt Allen back in the day, and Matt Allen was a trooper. I mean, he hated every game that he played. Brent and I loved it. Poor Matt. I pushed Matt. Maybe that's the reason Matt doesn't come around anymore. It has nothing to do with his wife's health concern. I'm sure it's all because he doesn't want to ever see Seafall again.
I'm excited to hear about the last one on Dave's list. Cool new Lion King game. Mufasa's work.
Mufasa's work.
My Faja's work.
Oh, okay.
No, it's the same one as yours. Yeah, yeah. I also really enjoyed that game. It's one that I'm really excited to play again. That's all I have to say for now.
Well, I had to add to my highlight after Nathan's monologue about Seafall. I had to put down today's date as the day I lost respect for Nathan.
I can respect that.
Seafall's been alright. It's definitely not my favorite game, and I usually end up fairly disgruntled by the end because I don't think it's a very balanced game. But I have played some fun games this last month. Thursday night game night, we got to play Reckoners, and with the new expansion, you guys were kind enough to wait for me to get out of class to play that, and it was a lot of fun. But I have fun every time we play Reckoners. It's a great game.
Love it. Every time it hits the table.
It's awesome. This is going back a little bit, but we got to play Founders of Rome with Doug. The Kickstarter pieces for that game were amazing. I thought they were awesome.
It is just ridiculously overproduced, and
for sure.
And I love every minute of it. Right? You just plop in these massive Roman buildings down on your map, and it just feels so good.
Plus, you got sun drop on them. Really brings out the details of the buildings. The sculpts are amazing on them. It's a fun and interesting game. I got to get Dominion to the table for the first time in at least 3 years. I actually taught my mom how to play Dominion. She had a good time. My girls had a good time when 4 of us played.
I'm curious about that, Andy. You said it's been almost 3 years?
Almost 3 years.
So how does it stack up? Because you played a lot of deck builders in the last 3 years. Does it still hold up?
I think so. Dominion is great. And honestly, there's enough expansions out that if you want a different experience with it, pull out a different expansion. The first expansions just added mostly just cards, but the later expansions added different gameplay. Honestly, I think that the wide variety of content that is in Dominion, yeah, I still think it's great. And it
just had a new expansion
It
out.
did. I have not played the new expansion yet. We started out with just the basic stuff since my mom, she's not a gamer. We're working on it. I think Dominion's great. I still enjoy playing it, even though it's been 3 years, and we played the daylights out of that game when it first came out. We were talking about that the other day, actually, and I think Dominion is probably the game I have the most plays of all the games I own.
I was thinking that if I had kept track of games way back, Dominion would be up there. 1 or 2 games that I've played the most.
Yeah, same here. Lydia and I wore that game out before I was actually tracking stats or whatever, but played that a lot.
And what's interesting to me about that, because I think it's the same for me, my plays with you are not a ton of that game. Played it a lot at Thursday night game night years ago. Played it a lot in Washington. When we used to go to visit Dalton in Juvie, we used to play it twice a week. Every Tuesday and every Thursday, we would bring that in. As soon as we sat down, we had 1 hour. We'd start shuffling cards, set up a game, and play. I think that one's always going to stand the test of time.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. As you guys talked about, we played Detective Club last Thursday. Everybody thought I wasn't going to like it because there's a social gaming aspect to it.
A fun gaming aspect?
There's like a social deduction, but it's light social deduction, so it made it fun. It's because I like games like Obscurio, and I like games like Mysterium Dixit. Libalud made this game. Is very similar. You're trying to figure out who's bluffing. I actually really enjoyed it. It was a fun game. We had some laughs. Were actually pretty enjoyable to play.
And Amara really seemed to like that one.
She
did.
She
was playing that with us, and she really liked it.
She did, and liked the fact that she did so well in that game.
Yeah, she
did.
Good.
She did great.
So
everybody did better than me.
Her and I tied for the win on that one, and yeah, she went home with all smiles because she felt like she played that game very well. We got Architects of the West Kingdom Works of Wonder to the table. Was super excited about getting new expansion played, and I loved it. I thought it was great. Doug, you played that with me, right?
Yes, I believe I was.
I thought it was well done. Added really nicely to the game. Didn't really add any length to the game.
That was one that me, you, and Logan played, correct?
Correct.
That's right. I did really like that. In fact, the entire West Kingdom trilogy, it gets better every time I play it. All 3 of those games.
Very well done. We got Terra Mystica to the table, and I feel really bad because I, spur of the moment, told Nathan and Logan that I would teach them Terra Mystica, and I hadn't played it in at least 2 years, probably longer. So it was a rough teach. I think Nathan needs to play it again. He kind of had a bad experience. I think that was more my fault than it was the game's fault.
I actually still really enjoyed the game. But yeah, that teaching sucked. But I've had plenty of experiences where I've had just as crappy teachings where I've been the teacher. You think, oh, I know how to play this game, and then you go to teach it, and you're like, yeah, I don't remember how to play this game.
Yeah, I felt confident just because I'd played it so much, but it has been a long time, and there was definitely things I had forgotten.
Terra Mystica's been on my list of games that I've wanted to learn how to play for a very long time. Now that you
it's a really good one.
Now that you know how to teach it.
Now we can actually do a good teach on it.
I think what they discussed is he knows not how to not teach it.
So I also got to play Taverns of Tiefenthal again, and I think this is one of my favorite games. I got to play this with my daughter Amara and with Richie. We did the full version of the game. The game has basically 5 different modules that you progressively add as you play the game. You just add more content to it. Or you can just start out with everything, all the content. We decided to just jump in and have everything. I don't think Richie's played all the different modules. He had a good time. He struggled with first game and then said, let's play again. I think I got my head wrapped around it, and I think he struggled worse the second time around. So when you play all 3, you have a variable start. So there's 3 cards that get laid out, and each player gets to decide what they want their starting cards or starting abilities or whatever on those cards. You get to pick which one you want. Because someone picks one card doesn't mean you can't pick the same card. He didn't pick the same card. The same card came out that he had played previously, but he picked a different card. I think he struggled worse in that game than he did the one prior to that. It's such a solid...
And I think it's way better with all of those modules mixed in.
I do too. Each time you play it, that content gets added. It just makes the game even stronger.
Super solid game. I really like Taverns.
Got to play my number 1 favorite game, and that is Descent 2nd Edition. We got to play that with our friend Jared. So it was Dave, Logan, myself, and Jared. Jared is not a board gamer at all, and I don't know if we want to say conned him into playing because he knew full well what he was getting into, but he was willing to sit down and play Descent with us. And I think he, for the most part, for Jared, he had a good time.
Yeah.
He likes D&D, and he likes the combat side of it, so games like Descent should be right up his alley. But the fact that it's a board game, I think, turns him off of it.
Sometimes it kind of surprises me because he is amazing to play Pathfinder with. It surprises me that he doesn't like board games as much.
I think he had bad experiences with board games years ago and has just decided he doesn't like board games.
Wait. Jared's your friend, right, Dave?
Richie's.
He's Richie's friend.
Oh.
But I mean, yeah.
Mine and Richie's. We went to school with him. So.
But I
And
saw
you played games with Dave.
But I saw where you were going with that, Nathan.
Yeah.
That may be why. That's a good point,
all
Nathan.
right, yeah.
You're starting to put two and two together?
Yeah, it's all coming together now. My empathy has increased greatly for Jared.
Just kidding, Dave.
Give me my ball. I'm going home.
Got to play Mythic Battles Pantheon with my son, Caden.
Oh, how did he like it?
Oh, he loved it. It was fun. He wants to play the next scenario, of course. Oh my gosh, what a fantastic game.
I love that game. That was a ton of fun.
We played the second scenario. This is maybe a shocker where I wasn't extremely clear on one rule. So Caden won, but I actually would have won the round prior. We called it a win for him. He was all sorts of excited. Wants to play Hades next. He was Ares this last time. I'm excited for the Kickstarter to come out for that with the Norse mythology. I think that's going to add some amazing characters and monsters and everything else.
Great content for sure.
It really will.
I showed up to game night just as you were wrapping that up, and you had it all just spread out on that table. It was taking up the entire Watson.
Mycroft.
Or Mycroft, yeah. The big
Don't
one.
belittle
right?
Minecraft. Tanya Watson.
I just had to sit there and stare at it. The table presence was incredible. That looked like a really, really fun game. That's another one I'd love to learn.
It is a blast. And I don't have everything currently out. Wide variety of heroes and gods and monsters and troops. How you can build your army. They all have different abilities and different powers. It's crazy the combinations that you can create when you're forming your army for that game. A super fun game. Finally, my kids convinced me to bust out Pathfinder, the adventure card game. It's been a while since we played that, and we played that this week a couple of times. It's been a good month for gaming.
You know what, guys? Andy, while you were talking just now, I realized you guys are a bunch of nerds.
What gave it away?
I mean, it wasn't the fact that we have a podcast talking about board games, so...
It just hit me.
Okay. June highlights. Biggest highlight for me, my computer works again. That was bad
That's
times.
huge.
Yeah, that was huge. My motherboard died. Died right before I had an episode to edit. I was late releasing an episode. Sorry for those who had to wait. Got caught up. Motherboard replaced. Computer working. Doug sent me a text how angry he was that I'd thrown off his whole week because he was going to listen to the podcast on Wednesday and he couldn't.
I have a very strict Wednesday routine, okay? It was thrown completely out the window. And it better never happen again.
I hope it never happens again. Good to be back and to be able to get stuff done. Not having a computer is kind of a crappy deal.
Definitely.
Another highlight, finally getting caught up with this whole move thing. We've combined 2 households into one household. We've got a house that has a much bigger yard, and much bigger yards require much more yard work. Lawnmowers that work, and we didn't have those. Pulling stuff by hand. It's been a rough go so far with this move, but things are starting to calm down. As soon as I get my other 2 houses sold, things will be better. Maybe I'll smile more, and I won't fall asleep playing my father's work, which I feel bad. Still feel really bad that I exited out of that app.
But, you always talk about it's the experience. And part of the experience of that game was Nathan falling asleep and Andy calling him to wake him up startled, or Andy coming over and whispering in his ear to startle him awake. You don't need to apologize. You really made that experience for the rest of us.
I guess I really apologize to Dennis, because Dennis came a long ways to play that game. Tired as I was, I wish I'd been playing Taverns of Tiefenthal on the other table. Kind of was mad at Andy. Why would you make me play this game when I'm so tired? But Andy had no idea how tired I was. But
I thought that's what you wanted to play, so I stepped away so you
that.
Specifically could play that game.
That was very generous of you, and I appreciate that tons. And I feel even more bad now that I fell asleep at the game table. Who does that?
But think of all the stories we have to tell now.
Yeah, great for a laugh, if nothing else. Got to get some Scarabia to the table on my 10 for 10. Kind of worried this whole move that all my gaming goals are going to be shot this year. My wife has buoyed up our gaming experiences, and unfortunately I've been playing a lot of Skip-Bo lately.
I'm so sorry.
It actually hasn't been too bad. Like you said, Dave, it's all about the experience. And Skip-Bo is a game that I can get my 87-year-old mother to play, and my wife to play, and my daughter to play. For me, that was a great experience. The other day, we're sitting at the kitchen table, 4 of us playing a game together, which was what this whole move was all about. Being able to take care of family and all be together, playing some Skip-Bo.
At least it wasn't Phase 10.
That's my wife's favorite game, so I'm sure I'll be playing that too. Did have my birthday. It was Dave's birthday 2 days ago, too.
Happy birthday, Dave.
Senku?
For my birthday, Andy's like, come over to my house and we'll play whatever you want to play. Okay, let's play some Power Grid. Andy had to go do something else. He left the rest of us to play Power Grid. It was on my gaming goal.
Smart man.
Poor Logan did not enjoy his game of Power Grid even a little bit. I think I enjoyed Logan's agony more than I enjoyed the game. Doug, you ended up winning that, didn't you?
No, so it came down to Dave and I, and we had to go to tiebreak. And I think Dave won it by like
4
5
coins.
Yeah, 4 or 5 points. Yep.
I enjoy Power Grid. Power Grid's a game that's been around for a long time. I put it on one of my 10x1 game goals, is to get a great game to the game table. I was very appreciative of everybody playing Power Grid, and I was very amused with Logan's displeasure of Power Grid.
Power Grid's just one of those games that you talk about, some of the older games that are just good game. You compare it to games that are coming out now, and they're just much more sophisticated. And by sophisticated, I don't mean difficult or anything like that. So many more things have been developed in gaming that allow a much deeper gameplay.
Minis have become huge, right?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that the game has become more difficult, but the game has become more intense.
And Power Grid's just one of those that, you know what, it's always going to be a good game to get to the table every now and then, no matter what Andy says.
Well, he didn't say anything. I mean, again, I am going to praise Andy. Andy was off trying to refresh on the rules for Zaya Legends of the Drift system so we could play that afterwards. Logan made us drag out this game of Power Grid for hours. Play the game for 3 hours, and it's not a 3-hour game. The more he tried to hurry it up, the more he drug out the game. It was still good times, very much enjoyed it, and we did not get to get Zaya to the game table. And one of those game nights where we all showed up to Andy's house to play games and didn't play games with Andy. Andy was off doing other things.
Yeah, that's true. Cooking and reading rules.
Yeah.
I will say that we were celebrating your birthday, and we had some of the best food I've
yeah.
ever
It was
had. We
amazing
had, and
food.
more of it than any of us could eat. It was so good.
My wife was upset. You're taking all that food, and everybody else is taking all that same amount of food. There's no way you guys are going to eat all that. And then when I came home with almost exactly the same amount of food that I took, she's like, I knew it! Leftover stuff for a long time and freezing some stuff. The food was amazing. The appreciation is huge from me to everybody was there, especially you, Andy, hosting it at your house, doing an amazing job. It's great. It's good to have good people in your life. And even when those people force you to play Merchants of the Dark Road, which was a great game, should have been a 2-hour game, that ended up being a 4.5-hour game.
Was it 4.5 hours?
It was 4.5 hours.
Wow.
It was a long game. There was still some good times that were had. And we'll be talking about Merchants of the Dark Road later on, so I won't mention too much more than that it shouldn't be a 4-hour game.
No, it really shouldn't.
So that kind of wraps up our highlights. As per normal, it seems like this takes up the bulk of our time. Let's talk about some new games, because there's a ton of new games that have come out. Some Kickstarters that we've received. Talk about some of these new games.
I'll start us off by talking about one on behalf of Logan, because I think this is a game that he would love. One called Lost Ones. This is a game for 1 to 4 players. It says that it's best with 1. That's kind of interesting. 45 to 90 minutes long. It's not a very complex, weighty game. It's designed by Gordon Alford, published by Greenbrier Games. It's a choose-your-own-path story utilizing map tile exploration. Each player takes on the role of a lost one, which is a kidnapped youth taken to the other world, which is the home of the Fae. Now, thankfully, a conflict between warring Fae factions has created enough distraction for the lost ones to escape. Now, you must explore the magical realm of dreams and nightmares and hopefully discover a way home while the remaining Fae hunt you down. This is a cooperative hand management, storytelling, exploration, tile placing game. It just seems thematically like one I thought Logan would like. It's got some of that nightmare and horror to it. And he tends to like those games that are cooperative as well, especially in this type of theme. Lost Ones by Greenbrier Games.
Super excited. I received my Kickstarter for Bardsung. Miniatures in that game, just to start out with, are incredible. I don't know if you guys recall the picture I sent you of the Demon Lord that's in that game, and the sculpt on it is amazing, and just the base of it fills up my palm.
Is that the one that comes in the box that's like bigger than most of your games on the shelf?
Yes. It's that one. Plus it has 3 or 4 other boxes that go with it. Yeah, that's the one. Rated fairly high on BGG. It's rated at 7.9. The weight is 3.15.
Ooh.
Player count is 1 to 5, which is another interesting player count as far as best with. It's best with 1 or 4 players.
Huh. So that makes you wonder, like, the playtesting, how did that go, right?
Yeah. Playtime is 60 to 90 minutes. The designers are Matt Hart, Sherwin Matthews, Fraser McFetridge, and the publisher Steamforged Games, Ltd. There are a ton of mechanisms in this game. It's an adventure, exploration, fantasy, fighting miniatures game. It's a dungeon crawl game. Adding map tiles, you're exploring the dungeon. You actually begin the game with a single tile and a destination. What unfolds is a branching labyrinth dungeon of dangerous enemies, wandering monsters, challenging puzzles, and valuable treasure. It's a game of choosing your path as you seek to inspire the bard's songs and live your legend. From your physical passage through the dungeon to your journey of building your character into a fabled hero, your choices define your experience. Because dungeons are procedurally generated, those in like a roguelike video game, no 2 playthroughs will ever be the same. Lay tiles to build the dungeon, choosing your direction from the options at hand to seek, loot, and avoid threats. Encounter different enemies and challenges each time through event and battle and challenge decks that spawn new foes and throw curveballs in the form of poisoned weapons, traps, reinforcements, non-player characters, and more. Round length and turns and enemy activations are governed by a dynamic marching order that will keep you on your toes and encouraging you to adopt strategies that control the ebb and flow of the initiative. It's a campaign game, so as you continue your campaign, you're going to level your hero up, upgrade their stats, access new abilities, make your characters more powerful, enhance your existing skills, and gaining new skills. You have the freedom to either follow your hero's designated path or to create your own bespoke hero with a unique set of traits and arsenal of attack combos. I just think this game sounds absolutely amazing. I love the fact that there's narrative parts in it. I love the fact that there's consequences to your choices. And I love dungeon crawlers. Super excited to get this to the game table. Unfortunately, I still have to read the rules. But it looks amazing. That is Bardsung.
I'm looking forward to playing this game, too.
Yeah, you need to get on those rules fast. This is one that's been on my list for a while. Yeah, it looks really, really good.
Just another campaign game to add to our list of campaign games that we are trying to play.
Yeah. I have one I'll mention really quick that I've had my eye on. This is a game called Skyrise. By the time this episode airs, the campaign for this is going to be over. Hopefully they'll do a late pledge for it. Description for this reads, "You are a visionary, enlisted to aid in the creation of Skyrise, a magnificent city in the sky, dedicated to art, science, and beauty. You will design and direct the construction and buildings of your own design, as well as ones inspired by works of the great artists of your homeland. Any of you ever played any of the BioShock games? There was the BioShock Infinite video game.
No, they were always on my list, but I never got to them.
BioShock Infinite, the art style, atmosphere,
The
this
kind of
game.
steampunk feel of it.
Yeah, it's got that very steampunk. It's the city in the clouds, almost 1950s retro kind of vibe to it. But the thing that really caught my eye with this one was just the components. I mean, the components for this just look absolutely amazing. Everybody has a quarter or a section of the city that they're building in, and you're building this cloud city. You're bidding for these buildings, putting them out, and over time, this board grows and grows and grows into this really, really cool looking city. I'm glad that you backed this one, Nathan.
As soon as you started talking about it, I was like, hey, this sounds really familiar. Because I backed it.
Yeah, I'm so glad you did, because I really, really want to play this one. This one looks excellent.
This is one that I looked at and I was like, can I convince my wife to let me do that? No, I couldn't. But I'm glad you got it too, because it was looking really good.
I want to mention real quick a game called Decorum, which sounds a little bit weird, but I think it's going to be all right. 2 to 4 players, plays in 30 to 45 minutes. Decorum is a cooperative hidden information game where you and a partner share the same objective. Decorate your home in a way that makes you both happy. Different theme, but the way it plays out, I think will work out to actually be an enjoyable game. And some of those games that have a little bit different of a theme turn out to be hidden little treasures. I think this is going to be one of them. Different things make each player happy, and nobody knows exactly what the other needs. Can you find a happy compromise, or is it time to move out? Play through 30 unique scenarios, each introducing new twists and challenge. Keep your conditions a secret and say how you want your house decorated. Add and remove objects, repaint rooms to make the house look just right for you. Respond with love it, hate it, fine with it, or work together to form the perfectly decorated home. This game sounds odd when it's something unique like this, but this looks pretty interesting. That's Decorum. Check that out from Floodgate Games.
Since I love campaign games, well, all of us do, but I really love campaign games, I want to talk about another one, Legends of Sleepy Hollow. I always loved the cartoon, The Legends of Sleepy Hollow with Ichabod Crane when I was growing up. We'd watch it at my grandma's house on Halloween. It'd always scare me to death as a little kid. Just the story is kind of cool. So I'm really happy that they made a board game out of this. From 1 to 4 players. For those of you that are solo gamers out there, Nathan, it's best with 1. You can play this solo. Playtime is actually a broad range. It's 30 to 120 minutes.
I think it's funny when you have a game that has that wide of a span.
Yeah.
Or when the game has like very unique. It's going to take 47 minutes to play this game.
Yeah, 47 minutes.
Do they just have a big wheel on the wall they spin? And
Sometimes I think so, yeah. Well, they definitely haven't played with Dave.
None of them have, because they're all off.
Yeah. Like Dave sees that time limit, challenge accepted.
And the weight is actually only 2.5 out of 5. Medium weight game. This occurs 3 days after the disappearance of Ichabod Crane. And you play the roles of 4 of the Terrytown residents that have strange ties to the supernatural, and they venture into the ever-darkening Sleepy Hollow to uncover mysteries. In Legends of Sleepy Hollow, you take on the roles of 4 of the residents: the Undertaker, Jeremiah Pink, the Revolutionary War veteran, Matthias Giroux, Minister Elijah Chappell, and Tanner, Emily Van Winkle. Cooperative miniatures-based campaign game full of secrets and twists. During the game, players will use an action pool to move about and investigate, interact with their environment, or unleash powerful attacks and abilities unique to each character. Once selected, however, each individual abilities will be unavailable until the character's action pool is emptied, and a process that becomes more complex as each character gains fear throughout the game. So players will have to work closely together to overcome their fear while unraveling the mysteries of the Glen and become true legends of Sleepy Hollow. I think it sounds fun. Hope the cooperative play is fun. My one worry is that I hope the actions aren't obvious. Like, this person, they have this ability, so it's obvious I'm going to be doing this every single turn. I hope it has some depth to it, and it's not just repetitive turns. But overall, I think it sounds great. It sounds intriguing to me.
I agree. This one sounds really good.
That is published by Dice Hate Me Games.
Is this your company?
You know, if I started at a game company, it should be called that. It's already taken, so I guess I can't start a game company. Except for maybe it would be D6's Hate Me, not just Dice Hate Me.
What's his name? Ichabod Crane.
Don't.
That wraps up our July news. thank you so much for listening. Once again, thank you to all of our patrons. If you enjoy what we do, if you enjoy this podcast, please tell somebody about it. See if you can get a friend to listen. And we really, really, really appreciate that. Until next time.
We'll see you at the game table.
As always, we want to thank you for listening.
Check out our website. We have all sorts of cool things there. Love those blogs. Get a deeper look into the writing side of Meeple Nation.
Join our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. I look forward to seeing you there.
Follow us on Twitter @Meeple Nation. We also have Instagram.
Under the same name. We also want to thank our sponsor, GameToppersLLC.com.
We love their product, and there's so much goodness out there.
And we also want to thank Braden Detergent for our music.